Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's broadcast of the ACL. We are coming at you live with week number 5, where we are getting into the thick of it with playoff qualifications. We're going to qualify several more teams to the ACL playoffs this week. I think all in all, it's going to be 4 more teams, and we are featuring one of those matchups right here, right now, as Pookie Bear is going to take on UCI Esports.
Exactly. Should be an exciting one. Should be a good competition of teams that I don't think we've had enough of a chance to see. If you've seen CeeLo, more than likely you've probably seen UCI quite a bit. But then on the other side, it has been a much more difficult aspect to see Pookie. But they've been looking like an interesting team and fighting for qualification here. A surprise for a couple of people, maybe not everyone, but a surprise for a few as well.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a surprise with how well they've been able to do it. I really like the roster they've put on together here. So let's start
Yeah.
off by introing our two teams. Of course, both are in the 3-1 bracket. Start things off with Pookie Bear. This is ex-Royal Zaijan, is my understanding of the pronunciation. Sean, Kita, and Che. They have been running some alternative junglers. They ran mid learner 2 weeks ago, NZT a week ago, and then they've run secret location in mid lane the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they've been trying out a couple of things here and there. Interestingly enough, even though they've been trying multiple things, they've been able to keep their standing really well and their victories as well really well. So it clearly has worked to a certain degree. Now, we're going to the later part of the split, and it needs to be finally set up or settled on who's going to be the starter and how they are going to try and play. But we know some of the faces here and some of the players, Ex-Royal particularly, I think one of the ones that quickly jumps to attention, and then as well Kita, probably one of the other faces that you want to put as much notice as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Kita, probably better known as Ah from his time on Morning Star White. Definitely an 80 carry that has reached some pretty high highs in the open qualifier circuit. Che as well was a big name at support a couple years ago. He's taken a little bit of time off. Super happy to have him here as well. An ex-royal, like you brought up, the Rengar top main himself, not busting out that Rengar very much this season. Kind of gone to a much more
Yep.
traditional carry style top lane pool. A lot of Camille, a lot of Jace. Expect to see more of that here tonight. And on the other side, we've got UCI. It is Strumpus, Rosethorn, Xiao Danny, Gorica, and that's Cerulean down there in the bot lane with whatever mess of a name he's got now.
Yeah, pretty well-known roster at this point. Like we were mentioning, if you follow CeeLo, you more than likely have seen this roster played. And it's not a bad roster at all. I think they have a lot of potential. They have players that have clearly been able to stick out for quite a bit, and even players that have been able to play at the tier 2 level. But this is a roster that, even though they have really good potential, I'm not sure if I would stack them as like clear favorites comparatively, or if they are just at that cusp of being a favorite and fighting to prove themselves like that as well.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see what we've got in the lobby really quick. So it is NZT in the jungle for Pookie Bear, but it is Sean in mid lane. So Sean is who they've played with most of the season thus far. NZT just came in last week for Zaijan. We'll see how he is able to perform here up against UCI as the competition heats up further. So far, bans directed at X-Royal. That Aurora ban been pretty consistent, and these are some stock standard bans against UCI as well. The Volibear been the most dangerous champion that they've been able to bring to the table for Rosethorn so far, the Vi as well. And that Rise, a really dangerous double flex in the hands of UCI. Strumpist's pool kind of looks a lot like a mid lane pool, believe it or not.
Yeah, we maybe more than likely we end up seeing something like an Orianna top lane later on in the series if we get to that point where there's not enough top lane slash mid laners. But with Talia first pick, we're bound to see something like the Galio, something like the Wei. A Seer is still available as well, so wouldn't be surprised if it comes through. Galio, by the way, can still be played top lane as well because of the flex potential, so wouldn't be weird if we see Strumpest with the champion, although I think we see the Galio much more focused towards rumble lanes comparatively to other champions, so maybe it's a little bit too preemptive to say that it's going towards top lane, but it's still a really good potential flex, and it means that they are going to try and look for team fight potential. Something like the Xinjiao to go in, something like the Naafiri as well to follow up and go in, can be quite good. Camille, the everlasting combo, although we don't know if Strumpets will play it. And with that Corki Hopper potential pick, maybe could have gone into a Galio, but it's instead going to be Gorica Ezreal, a champion that he gets a lot of value in.
Yeah, and I'm really thinking that this Galio is probably intended to be a Talia counter pick. It's not really something that UCI's brought out throughout their season so far, and it does match that roam potential that the Talia brings to the table. The Ezreal, a classic for Gorica, champion he's very well versed on, and also one that's going to be safe on its own. So anticipating play towards top side from UCI. Let's see how Pookie Bear try to respond with that information straight up. It's going to be a Kaisa as a counter pick down in the bottom lane, so seeing an opportunity to try to punish that Ezreal, get in there, make sure that that mobility isn't as useful as you might hope, and a chance to pair it up with a strong support here as well, something that will make Shay be able to have a little bit more influence. I think his Alistair's been really strong, his Leona as well, been another classic pick for them, but instead they're just going to try to get their first crack at the jungle pool and look at that Sejuani. Not locked in yet, but would not be a surprising lock-in for the side of NCT, and they will take it.
Yeah, the Sejuani giving them a little bit more tankiness here to be able to protect themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if Roastern goes for something like the Skarner to have that same potential tankiness as well. Although typically with the Galio, you always see those junglers that are much more team fight focused, like that Wukong that they hovered. The Lilia here, I'm not fully against it, but the only issue so far with this is that that's already quite a magic damage stack composition from UCI. Lilia, Ezreal, Galio, there's a lot of magic damage that is going to be coming through them, and they need a heavy, like, physical damage dealer that will come through. So they have to look for something in the top lane that can follow up with that. There's champions available, but if we're going to follow the logic that there's more mid lane champions played in the top lane than top laners, the actual top laners, then there's not that many that could come through unless maybe they pull something like a Tristana top or Varus top, which we have seen.
Yeah, definitely could be something a little bit spicier. I wouldn't be surprised to see something a little spicier from either of these players. Yeah, like I said, XRL's shown a little bit more of a standard pool so far, but especially if he's faced with some of these less normal top laners from Strumpus, might inspire him to go towards a little deeper into that pool that we know he can show. UCI, of course, going to get their first crack at the next round of picks, so they will get the last pick as well. So Strumpus probably going to save that one there. I expect to see a support for Cerulean towards the next round, already losing out on that Rakan. Meanwhile, the Leona taken off the board here from the Pookie Bears. Could very well see something like a Braum as well, just knowing that you're facing down the Ezreal and the Lilia, but plenty of options still available.
Kind of think Ezreal could, or sorry, Braum could go either way, because the protection for Talia's rocks as well as the initial engage from the Sejuani could be quite valuable if you have it on the side of UCI. But certainly if you're Pokeverse, you want to have that sort of tankiness on their side. Senna coming through as a ban, so not the typical Senna bot lane when you think about the Kaisa, but it's still not necessarily a bad choice. I would be surprised, but I don't think it's
Che plays as well. Yeah, so it's, you know, he busted it out last week up against Calamity, did a good job on that one. That was alongside the Varus, but, you know, same idea, right? It's not like your stock standard Senna lanes, just willing to play it into matchups that aren't expected to be too aggressive, and already having that Ezreal face up. That's certainly a concern for them. So the Karma going to round things out. That's a pick that could be a flex for this team as well. It's something that Strumpus has busted out top lane, so they want to limit that. And this is Cerulean's favorite champ. I mean, he gets a shot at the Alistair if he wants it. They may try to deny the Braum instead. Either of these would not surprise me, though.
Could be either of them. I think the fact that they banned the Karma for the potential Ezreal value with the Karma could have been another really big thing for UCI. So they end up going for the Braum, something we talked about, how both teams could make use of the Braum. Only thing that maybe UCI will be lacking here is engage potential. They are depending quite a lot, or quite heavily, on the Lilia hitting one of those slips, or the Galio finding a really good potential engage with the taunt, or the Braum initiating. They are lacking that immediate initiation that maybe UCI will try and get with their top laner. But the only other champion that I can think of for initiation in the top lane is Camille. So it kind of takes away a few of the options that are going to be left there. And Camille may be taken away here with the Nico already picked for the bot lane duo. Camille may be the option that they go for here.
I mean, it's been a favorite of X-Royal so far this season. The Jace is the other one, and that's been banned away, as it has been by many teams facing down Pookie Bear. Camille, blind, feels a little bit dangerous, especially against Strumpus, who, you know, will play for lane a little bit here. The further this UCI draft goes, the more out of place this Galio feels in what is otherwise a real kite back disengage focused composition. And now Strumpist, I mean, the world's his oyster. He's facing down a blind Camille. Does feel like he has a little bit of obligation to make this Galio a little more useful, but you know, there's no rules here. He can go for whatever he wants and trust that the team will be able to execute, even with a little bit of a mismatched Galio for Xiao Danny.
Maybe. Okay, Ambessa, yeah, it's another choice, actually much more meta. I was thinking of an arc potentially there, but Ambessa makes sense. Has an initiation tool technically that is long range, so you don't have to fully commit unless you connect that, and you don't have to be like really specific on the target you have to face. Like you can actually just engage with the Ambessa and then follow up with the Galio, and there's technically some synergy that you can go for. Only big issue that I see with the Ambessa here though is, once again, this is a pretty big magical damage composition on the side of UCI. Galio, Ezreal, and Lilia are not going to build a lot of physical damage. Maybe the Ezreal a little bit on the side, like trying to compensate, but it's going to depend a lot on this Ambessa's physical damage. And if she falls behind, if she doesn't fight a good angle, if she gets kited, she can be quite easy to deal with in some of the longer team fights. And also the lack of engage makes it so that they will depend quite heavily on her starting certain stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So does give you that little bit of engage, like you called out. Ambessa, probably the most top laner I've seen Strumpus pull out in a while. Yeah. He played a game of Renekton as well. Played a game of Gwen earlier this season too. So he's starting to, you know, he's expanding out a little bit more into some of those top lane picks.
It's the best of both worlds, technically.
Yeah, he's got a pool that can flex in both directions at this stage. And the Ambessa coming in R5, I mean, that's the latest I've seen an Ambessa picked in 2025. I'm pretty sure this champion's been super high priority for a very, very long time, but gets itself into a solid matchup up against the Camille here, and will have the opportunity to get in deep if you get set up properly for a public execution. That combo with the Galio can be plenty dangerous, and it certainly feels like UCI are well set up to use this Galio up onto the top side with this Ambessa. Of course, UCI Classic has been a path bot lane, so curious to see if we might get to see them try to prioritize this Ezreal and get him ahead early on.
And there's ways to try and make that work out. I feel, technically speaking, with the way that the composition kind of was drafted by Pookie Bears, Kai'Sa and Nico should be able to win the push. They should be able to put Ezreal a little bit towards the turret, and that means that there's pathing potential for Roaster to try and go down there. Only real problem here is that Lilia is not one of those ganking junglers that you want to try and commit early on with. You can, obviously, but it's not one of those junglers that you want to try and get into the thick of it really early on. Like, you want to wait, you want to reach your level 6, you want to get your spikes with each item component that you get, and you don't want to like rush her into trying to be impactful in the rest of the map. The problem is that with lanes that may be forced in, like the mid lane or bot lane, there may be less opportunities for Roaster to try and farm, and that may also put a little bit more pressure on UCI. But it's going to be fun seeing how they're going to find those angles, and if Gorica will be able to just carry with the Ezreal, a pick that he loves really, really heavily.
Yeah, a real different draft from UCI than what I've like come to expect to them watching them over in CLOL and such. It feels like this team, especially in the CLOL championship bracket, felt like a team that would put Rosethorn on some kind of ganking jungler and would just run bot every game trying to set up for Gorka and Cerulean to have an advantage. And when Gorka got an advantage in lane, its correlation with them winning was nearly 1-to-1. It was very easy for them to close games out from that point onward. But this is a draft that feels like, you know, Rosethorn's set up to farm. They are set up to potentially try to get up top towards Strumpus with this Ambessa Galio combo. And the fact that it's Braum Ezreal makes this feel like such a safe lane that you feel comfortable kind of ignoring, and it's a bit trust that it'll have an ability to be able to withstand any potential engages onto it, at least for the early stages. So I'm pretty curious to see how UCI actually play out this early game. It feels like a conflict between their draft and what I think of as their identity, but maybe they've cooked up a little something new this time.
Yeah, maybe it's trying to expand their horizons, right? Like, we need to remember that even though this is a qualification match for ACL, there's still one more chance for each of the teams. It's not like they get immediately eliminated if they lose out this game. And then also considering playoff potential.
Multiple more chances. This is 3-1.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also playoffs, right? Where now it's going to be the elimination potential for each of them. So maybe trying to expand on their pool, trying to be a much more dynamic team, much more creative team in that sense could be useful for them, because like you were mentioning, we were expecting something more from UCI, and I feel like teams are also expecting that from UCI. So this sort of change up where now we see finally Strumpus adding to his pool the top laners, the actual top laners, and then playing a little bit towards that, trying to give them a little bit more flexibility, maybe something that puts UCI towards that extra level, next level that we were looking for.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to have my eyes on Xiao Danny as well. I feel like this is a big edge matchup that UCI have tonight. We didn't even know which mid laner Pookie Bear was going to run. Yeah, Sean's only played a couple of series here. He was able to help them out in what was a slam up against Novasphere Gaming, and then a nice performance 2-0 up against Esports, a team that was kind of a pre-tournament favorite there. But definitely a player that is a little newer to the scene that we haven't seen up against this level of competition too often. Xiao Danny, though, a player that is basically ACL royalty at this point. He's played in a number of ACL teams, nearly all of them making playoffs, nearly all of them being threats at this kind of stage of competition where you're starting to qualify the first couple of teams. He does opt in for the counter pick, but it's not the kind of counter pick that's going to be able to like solo carry the game. So I'm curious to see what this mid lane matchup looks like, if Sean can get around the map and still make things happen on this Talia, or if Xiao Danny's going to accomplish what appears to be the goal of just shutting it down.
Yeah, it's going to be depending on them on how they want to play like that. And thinking about Xiao Danny a little bit as well, he has played for quite a few ACLs. Has he won one yet? I think he's been on the top 3 multiple times, but never really able to grasp the #1 spot, sadly.
Yeah, definitely is true. Has not been able to grasp that top spot. Few have, although a team that has grasped the top spot is UCI as an organization.
Yeah,
back in the kind of the first modern ACL. But before it kind of ballooned into what it is today with 32 teams, every split and stuff like that. UCI did win that split. I believe that was summer 2023. I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was
before fall. Fall was
it was either summer or spring 2023. I want to say it was summer, but yeah, that was a totally different roster. I think I mean Gorica was on that team, so I think it would have been.
So jungler, I do remember the jungle and Gorica because it was Gorica and Mike Young.
It's Mike Young. They had Light Pulse at the time. I think it was Cinnamon Bread and Elated, I want to say, to round out the team.
I think Elated was there. I don't remember who else actually, but yeah, the round.
Pretty confident it was Cinnamon Bread.
So I think it was Cinnamon Bread, Gorica, and Mike Young. The rest, I'm blanking on them. I think, and if I'm not wrong, I think they pulled it off because that was also the split with Sinclair, right? Where they pull off like a like a lower bracket run back when they lost to Sinclair in the upper bracket and then won against them in the grand finals. I think it was.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit of ACL history for everybody there. We got to get a little Hall of Fame or something going before we start losing track of who's won all the championships. But
the first champions here, so quite important.
Definitely first flag in the list. If you remember when LCS used to hang up flags of all the teams that have won, that was fun. Anyway,
that was a TSM and C9 flag show.
It was, and then 4 TL flags in a row for a little while. All right, well, we got to pause here. So we're loaded onto the map, but we are paused. We could do at least a little glance over it. Summoner spell and rune choices. Nothing too shocking here. Double phase rush coming in the mid lane. It is the lethal tempo for Gorica, looking to be that big scaling threat on the Ezreal. Strumpus and X-Royal both going for Grasp of the Undying. And we're unpaused.
Didn't last long. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, so game number 1. Reminder, both of these teams at 3-1. The way our format this year works is 4 wins qualify you to playoffs, 4 losses eliminate you from the tournament. It is Swiss style from here on out. So 2 3-1 teams brawl. The winner will lock in a pretty high playoff seed. They'll play next week against other 4-1 teams for seeding, but will definitely be a top half seed. So you definitely want to qualify yourself early. Also will earn you a little bit of additional downtime before those playoffs do start. But definitely also not the end of the world to drop here, as you got a lot more chances.
Yeah, there's still multiple chances. That being said, seeding will matter because, like, looking at each of the lists that have different teams, I think there's quite a few surprises here and there. So the higher up you are in seeding, probably the best you can hope for, because some of these potential 3-3 or 4-3 teams that we'll eventually see are going to be quite contested, I believe.
Yeah, definitely, especially because like as the rosters have shifted around, and you know, as players give varying degrees of care about their solo queue ranking,
Yep.
you start to get a little unpredictable in your matchups since it's still driven by that pre-tournament seeding. So you definitely want to be careful about giving up series that you deem winnable. You cannot control who your opponents are going to be in that 3-2, 3-3 bracket, and you don't want to find yourself in dire straits too early. So a big important matchup for both of these teams to try to get themselves out of the worry about making playoffs nice and early in their ACL run. The laning phase kicks on off. Both junglers starting top side, so it may be a bot lane focus for these squads either way.
Exactly. It looks like quite a lot of trading already going on, not only in bot lane actually, because Strumpus and X-Royal really want to hit each other as much as possible, and this means that there's always going to be good opportunities for the junglers to, if they think they want to, try and set up for a gank up there. Both of them though are going to be pathing bot side. There's not going to be any sort of cheesy gank, so top lane going to be ignored at the very least for now, and it's going to be on who can set themselves up better down there in the bot side, although it looks like NCT is going to be much quicker clearing some of these camps.
Yeah, off to a little bit of an early clear lead here on that Sejuani, but see if Rosethorn will be able to catch up in time to challenge for this bottom scuttler, or if challenging the bottom scuttler is even the game plan here. I mean, this is going to be Goraka and Cerulean getting shoved on in, the Nico support seeing to that, giving you that additional range, that additional wave clear with the Pot Blossom. When you're able to land it onto a target, you get multiple triggers. And a recall coming through from mid, so UCI definitely a little more vulnerable on the map at this stage, 3 minutes in.
And they really want to start trying to get a little bit more control in general with that bot lane push, the fact that they do have this Sejuani close by, but with so much of a push going in on the side, as well as trying to force a little bit too much on the turret, there is a much better chance for Rosethorn to try and arrive to the scene of the bot lane as quickly as possible. So it's going to be interesting seeing how they are going to try and face that. Really nice slide damage onto Gorika, and it's all that this game is going to be. Who can get the better damage onto some of them, who can try and get the better control. It looks like actually NCT backed away, so actually giving some space here from Rosethorn. He's pathing down.
Yeah, Rosethorn on the way down. Nice slow connects onto Kita. Summoner heal gonna come on across. Kita flashes away as well, and that's first blood. That was Che all along, actually. But now Kita gonna take a fair bit of damage on the other side. Nice dodge on the Mystic shot will keep him standing. But an early kill onto Che. First blood onto Gorika. That's what UCI is looking for.
Yeah, perfectly done down there, and it all comes down to something that we were talking about in draft. If you get a little bit too pushy into the enemy's lane, you're going to leave space for the opponent to try and get on top of you, and that's exactly what UCI played around with. They knew that they had the space. Ooh, Strumpus, yeah.
I mean, nowhere left to go. X-Royal nearly takes him down. Chooses to not expend the flash. That's a big summoner advantage, and NZT is making his way up there, coming on in with the flail. Flashes, doesn't connect. Takes a couple of turret shots for his efforts. One more sweep, and X-Royal will walk away with the first kill in top lane.
You know what? I call that worth it. It's X-Royal that gets the kill, doesn't have to blow his flash. He already used his teleport, so actually the way that the lane will set up here, potentially much better for him, and as long as it's not heavily pushed with, could happen, but with the next wave of minions it's going to be a little bit more difficult. This Camille now is going to be really good and self-sufficient enough that you probably don't need to call NCT anymore up there. And then on the bot side, there's ways to try and recover that. So it's going to be a game of top lane against bot lane. One kill on each side of the map. Who can make the most out of it?
Yeah, the Camille, a champion that also excels at locking down the Ezreal, by the way. Yep. So definitely have quite a few tools to try to work their way on towards Gorika here. Che, spotted bot side, going to be pushed away. And they know where Strumpus is. They watched him walk down that way, but doesn't look like they're going to look for the punish, even though they also saw Xiao Danny and Rosethorn here. So I guess just all of the cards not coming up right. NZT wants to recall, so gonna be a nice little steal there for Rosethorn.
Yeah, just going to be a good amount of gold going back in the pockets of Roadstern as part from the assistance that he was able to get before. And also, junglers not trying to be as heavily proactive as possible. They knew that there was some chances there to maybe look for something, but realistically, Sejuani didn't have enough health there to try and force a fight. Also, the minion wave was in a horrible spot to really force X-Royal to go into it. And then also in the bot side, they understand that there's no chance to actually force a fight there 4v5. So pretty smart to try and opt against that as another trade top lane. Royal really hurting the Invest as much as possible.
Cerulean stepping up here. Great damage on Nikita and will force out that cleanse. Really good navigation of this 2v2 for Gorka and Cerulean, making sure to proc those concussive blows repeatedly. And it's keeping these guys on the back foot. This is going to be a dragon for Rosethorn that he's already working on, and Gorka and Cerulean feel confident in their ability to support.
Yeah, should be pretty easy. A shout and engages here. A little bit of pop damage just to try and bother the Talia here, but interesting to see those trading patterns whenever there's any chance to go for something. It's on the shield timing. If you force a fight with the shield up, you probably are going to win it as UCI. If the shield is down, they are going to trade much, much better on the side of Pokebear. So there's that. Oh, close.
Yeah, Strumpus goes for that public execution. It does not connect it. X-Royal quick on his feet, able to get out of there, still holding on to the flash. Now with a flash advantage and an ult advantage, Strumpus has to respect that and take the recall here without his TP.
Yeah, this may be a little bit of a preview of what may happen later on in the game whenever we have Strumpus having to force the engages. He actually gets cancelled or not even forced well enough in the way. Oh, Che has a flash.
Oh, Che going to be engaged on by Gorka. The minion wave will bail him out, and that's actually super interesting by X-Royal there. He chooses to not crash the wave. He leaves it pushing in, and they're going for the lane swap. So Pookie Bear is putting full prio on this new single grub spawn at 8 minutes.
Yeah, maybe trying to give more value or way more value here to the Camille, which I think all in all, not a bad attempt there. Camille is a great split pusher and trying to give them a little bit more value with those extra value from the Grumps is going to be a little bit more useful than if you don't try to fight it. Also, we need to consider objective-wise, it was a 1-for-0 with the dragon going down, so you kind of want to try and have something in your favor in some way. Rosthorn.
Yeah, Gorka's coming up, so UCI are committing here as well. They're actually going to have more members over the wall. Taunt from Xiao Danny. NZT is locked down, and it will be a kill for UCI. They're 5v3 up here now. Sean going to have to pay respect and back on it off. Forced to blow his flash. Che still looking for a little bit of poke damage, a little bit of chips here and there, but Gorka finds the shot and takes down Sean. 2 kills to UCI, the feat of warfare as well.
Yeah, way too greedy there by Sean to try and walk the way that he did. He gets stunned, and it's a pretty easy kill. Oh no, Rosethorn here.
Oh, we'll see. I mean, Che's going to take the pumped up damage. I don't think Rosethorn can solo kill him, though, so we'll be able to walk out.
Yeah, at the end, it's not the end of the world in that sort of play just because they don't end up losing Che, but they lose the grubs, they lose the kills. And also, even though Camille did get a couple of plates, it's not enough to just go over the amount of gold that, at the very least, the Strumpist was able to get as well. So, all in all, just slight advantage in favor of UCI, but that can turn into much more if they are smart enough to play around it.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, getting 2 grubs versus 1, much better than it used to be, right? You now get... Yeah. It counts as an objective for the purposes of feats. It also does still give you... a nice little buff just to get 2. You do get the extra damage from Touch of the Void, and you don't get the Void Mites. Of course, you need all 3 for the Void Mites, but still a sizable advantage to get 2 instead of 1.
An advantage is an advantage, and especially when you have that first dragon, when you have the extra 2 grubs, you want to take however you want it in any way possible, and if it works out, much better. So now with these objectives down, with the fact that they did trade lanes between the whole map pretty much from both sides, they probably will try and look for the next turret, at the very least try and collect some more plates, especially in Gorka. So I'm not sure if they are going to try and force a little bit more here in the mid lane to try and give him more avenues to try and get more gold, or if they want to go instead for the dragon, which will spawn in 1:20.
Yeah, I mean, a dragon will be feats for UCI as well, which matter more now than they used to because the tier 3 boots are good, actually. So those are actually worth purchasing. And there are 2 objectives deep. 2 grubs counts as an objective now. So 1 dragon, 1 herald, 1 anything for UCI will net them full feats. So something to keep in mind here, given that buff status, Strumpus going to face check into NZT. Take a little bit of damage. Here's the follow-up from X-Royal. We'll be able to lock him down, and I don't think there's anywhere for Strumpus to go. Nope. NZT walking away with the kill credit.
Yeah, unlucky there by Strumpus, and also the fact that they didn't get the kill to the Camille probably would have worked out much better. So really good kill they are able to collect, and also pressure that they can go for into this bot lane turret, as they are looking a little bit more aggressive in the mid lane on the side of UCI. They do have the members advantage, plus also the damage advantage. Kida is quite low right now, so I'm not sure if they are going to try and force any fight with them, and that means that now there's a little bit more space for UCI. Yeah, they want to go for the Camille.
Yeah, I mean, X-Royal smells it. He gets out of there in time. We'll be able to even get credit on that plate that they took down. So nice job by X-Royal. That is, of course, still going to give them pressure towards that dragon spawn coming up here. But recall already channeled by Sean. That's some alone time top for Xiao Danny, who does have TP advantage. All in all, feeling very strong for UCI here as they have better numbers around the dragon in the short term. They're going to be able to call over Xiao Danny. They crash the wave, and they are set for this.
Yeah, they want to force this dragon here. They have the angles like you were talking about. They do have a little bit more item value here on the side of Pookie though, and Sleep coming through actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's a sleep that's pretty much going to put this fight to bed. Here comes Strumpus diving in with a public execution. Dragon already smited. Xiao Danny able to pick up the first kill. Pop Blossom trying to return fire, but so much kite back from the disengage tools. X-Royal into the back line makes it a 2 for 2, but now he's in too deep and has nowhere left to go. Rosethorn flashing in with one more swing. Going to be able to take down a third, make that 4. A triple kill to Rosethorn, and UCI clean up the fight.
Yeah, Rosethorn finding a really good angle there. The sleep at the start of the fight, a little bit too forced in my opinion, but then the way that they played it out, having the numbers advantage, having the better member positions, also just making it easier for them to be able to take down the fight. Importantly as well, I would say the fact that there was no Camille ultimate and all of that. If she was able to utilize the ultimate to not only reposition herself, but also becoming vulnerable for a little bit, that would mean that she gets a little bit extra damage without falling victim to anything, and maybe the fight looks different. But so far, really great fight by UCI, enabling themselves to get a little bit more of a gold lead, and also securing the second dragon in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely here. So, UCI coming on up with a sizable little lead for themselves. They're up 2 dragons, they're up in grubs, they are up in gold. Marching in on to see if they're going to be able to use those grubs to take the first turret, but not even particularly relevant anymore without that bonus gold. So all in all, in a very comfortable position. They got the gold where they wanted. It's on to Gorica and Rosethorn.
Yeah, you want to get the gold in the right places, and they went to the right places indeed. Now, there's still avenues for the side of Pookie to really make a big splash here, because one of the good things about their composition is that, yes, Gorica and Rosethorn may have a lot of the gold, but they are also quite squishy. So if a Camille gets on top of them with the Kaisa, with the extra damage from the Talia, it's quite easy to burst them down, and that also means that they can force a better fight later on as well.
Yeah, sure. So coming on in on the top side is public execution. Coming in on the X-Royal. Can they melt him down in time? 3 members here. Looks like they can. A nice easy cleanup for Rosethorn off the Eep. 4 kills strong on the Lilia now, and UCI finding themselves another quick and easy pick, and one that's not too far away from the Rift Herald spawn.
Yeah, exactly. They get the pick, they get the move as well into the Herald side, and they are also clearing the vision, which means that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to be able to spot this Herald take. Now, will they go for it immediately as soon as it spawns? Potentially, but I'm not 100% sure, as a little bit of a squabble here in the bot side, but I don't think it's going to turn into anything.
Seems unlikely. Well, they will be able to get the disengage off, and going to just still be taking away camps. It's been such a repeated invade onto these birds from Rosethorn throughout the early stages of the game, and now going to be able to go back to his own camps that are already up and keep on building. Hills make it up for a solid amount of the gold difference here, but going to be on good pace to not fall behind in CS either, all mounting together for a sizable gold advantage. X-Royal thinks he's got an angle on a Strumpus here, throws down that execution and will be able to take it. X-Tech ultimatum, making it tough to dash as the Ambessa, and a solo kill to X-Royal.
Yeah, actually able to send 2 Qs to the face of the Ambessa, so a lot of true damage that ends up going through on that play. That being said, it is on the Ambessa that is currently, was before 0-3, currently 0-4, and not really finding the avenues that you want to see from the side of UCI. They still have a lot of strength in other parts of the map, but this Ambessa clearly cannot go answer the Camille.
Oh, not at all. And Danny and Rosethorn with some alone time on the bot lane turret. Here comes Cerulean on the flank. Flash forced out of Sean, and so every time UCI show up somewhere, they get a little something. That is tower, though, taken up top for X-Royal off that solo kill on Strumpus. So feels like this game just in X-Royal's hands here for Pookie Bear. They need him to be able to keep making these plays happen in the side lane to try to relieve some of this pressure everywhere else, because everywhere Rosethorn shows up, it's just a nightmare.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it's that easy to try and escape. Oh, Sean.
Remember Sean flashing earlier? Yeah, this is going to be the end result of that one. Rosethorn does not leave him alone. Shout Danny is here for the lockdown, and UCI get themselves another. Kita being focused in mid, going to have to retreat in that 2 versus 1, and it's just anteaters all day.
Yeah, with the fact that they are already in the mid lane, they are able to push, and they are going to force out Kita from the mid lane. It does mean that the mid lane turn maybe not long here enough for them to be able to see it, but there is a little bit of an attempt here by the Che. A lot of damage.
Definitely. Focus on towards the outer turret. Will be falling here very shortly. Gork and Cerulean walking away, having claimed a second turret on the map for UCI. Dragon number 3 up as well, and already UCI are on the move. Strumpus has TP in the top side, and everybody else ready and waiting in the river.
Yeah, potentially make it so that this dragon fight will be game defining. Strumpus is having an awful time up there in the top side, but they are clearly trying to set up to make this dragon be just as valuable as if taking a potential Baron buff. So starting it already, teleport by the Camille, doesn't have a flank angle or a flank ward though, so it's going to make her potential to get into the fight a little bit more difficult. And they are all just accumulating here on the side of the river, trying to set up a potential fight.
A wall coming on across. Nice. Sean going to be able to split the team. Cerulean has to jump back over. Dragon falling lower. Sleep comes on across and is stolen away by NCT. But what's going to be the cost on the other side? X-Royal already falling low, going to drop here before the fight gets finished. And there's going to be the dive in from Shout Danny, getting locked down under the remaining members. And Gorica's over the wall, pinging them lower and lower. Sean just 1 shot away from dead. Gorica looking for the angle to get it. Hiding back away now is Che, and more Mystic shots landing. Gorica's got them corralled inside of that base, but it's a blink in onto Che. The health bar wasn't actually that low. It doesn't matter. The bait may be successful, but it's a cleanup for Strumpus either way.
It was a really good bait, but at the same time, the bait is not strong enough, like you're mentioning. And even though they lost the soul point, they still get a lot of gold value with those kills. They will be able to push some of the waves inside and then also try and set up for a potential Baron in the future. Important that they try and make all the steps happen, because one bad mistake and they can end up getting punished on the side of UCI.
Working out that replay here, but a nice cleanup by Gorica. Just continuing to prevent them from being able to fall back in any meaningful way, and that was huge for their ability to actually close out that fight. Does end up going down, but will trade his life proudly for guaranteeing a fight win and an ace. And now UCI, I mean, they gave up that dragon, but they're further ahead than they were before, just continuing to win on out in these skirmish situations and just melting down targets way too quickly with the additional help of Xiao Danny on that grand entrance.
Yeah, now it's to consider, apart from just the fact that they do have quite a few items, also the position that they are in terms of level. It's level 12 from Gorica to level 16 from Kita, level 13 to the level 12 of Sean. They are not only doing a really good job at farming, but they are also doing a really good job at staying close to collect the CS or the experience when they need it, and that would just stay stronger than their opponents for a little bit.
Ooh, over the wall. Sean riding on in, maybe up a little far. Cerulean commits the Glacial Fissure. They won't be able to follow up on it, but Sean getting a little fear put into his heart there by riding the wall, maybe a little bit too close. Otacon has now spawned on the bottom of the map, and maybe something worth playing for. That Thornbound Otacon, pretty strong.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they are going to immediately start it. Having Rosethorn on top side and also NCT not really in the best position with the rest of the team to try and go for it. Doesn't surprise that much in terms of what they were going to be looking for, but it is going to be another turret for the Camille, and this Camille is really strong on the sideline, really strong on trying to put pressure on other people. It's just how they will try and respond correctly here.
It is clearing things out now. X-Royal still doing well in his one-on-ones with Strumpus, but that's kind of the one refuge that Pookie Bears have had over the last 10-ish minutes. Now has to be careful as the outer turrets have fallen, just has to be up so much further. Has NCT shadowing him for now. Or actually, is that NCT or is that Che? That's actually NCT. Come on over. They're trying to focus down Strumpus. Cerulean is here for the backup. Will it be enough to save his life? No, it will not. Public execution only delays the inevitable. But now you got to disengage. It's a TP in from Xiao Danny behind enemy lines. How many will they be able to clean up? Rosethorn's actually fallen so low. They've been able to return quite a bit of fire. Now Sean in position to clean up that shutdown. It was a dive in from Kita, trading 1-for-1 with Gorica. X-Royal rejoins the fight, having taken the back door out earlier, and Rift Herald is here to join the party. That's an ace for Pookie Bear.
Yeah, just like that, and turn into a pretty weird fight, into a shutdown and an ace for the side of Pookie Bears, and they are going to keep on pushing with this Herald. It's going to be this Herald crash that will alleviate some of the problems to try and just collect here. But at the end of the day, like, really great fight, really good collection in general, and the goal that they desperately needed. They are now ahead on the side of Pookie Bears, and this Camille, I think this Camille may be able to do it. If he gets on top of Gorica, I see them able to just to lead the champion 100%.
Yeah, I mean, really good stuff here from Pookie Bear, and what a gold swing, right? With that inner turret gold, plus the ace and the shutdowns that came with it onto Xiao Danny, onto Rosethorn, they slingshot themselves into the gold lead now. And Otacon's on the map. Baron, 2 minutes and 30 seconds away. Another dragon on the table in just a few seconds. Everybody's going to have to brawl on this bottom side for the double objectives, and Pookie Bears actually find themselves with the advantage.
Yeah, it just seems like they probably are going to find much more value with this in this position, as there's much better vision as well over on the top side of the river, which means that it's going to be difficult to try and get an inside track unless you're going down here on the bot side, but still so many vision control. And also Mill is still pushing on the top side. They do have the teleport on both top laners, so not going to be an advantage for either of them. But oh, Kita.
And NCT coming over the wall, flash away from Gorica, but here's the rest of the squad going in for the cutoff. NCT staying alive for a long time. Pop wants him, connects out of 2. Kita in the back line, going to be able to execute down Gorica. Big shuffle back from Sean. Turns what's a single into a triple, and Kita is still walking away. Finally, Strumpus will be able to finish him down, but he's locked down with the Hextech ultimatum and finished off. 4 kills for 1 to the Pookie Bears.
Yeah, and could have been a much better affair there by UCI with the way that it started, but quick reaction by the side of Pookie Bear. They were already following up on what Kita wanted to do when they saw Gorica alone by himself. Then he used his tools of escape really early on, and that just meant that it was going to be much easier to try and locate where to force the fight, how to force it, and how to end it. Really well done over there. Great seismic shot by Sean there in the process, and it turns into such a great victory for them. 2 objectives, one of them the Atakan, and now it's going to be a wait and see how they are going to utilize this as aggressively as possible.
Yeah, I mean, huge cleanup there. They get the XP advantage off of the upgraded pedals. They get the Otacon buff. They're now in an even larger gold lead, about as large of a gold lead as UCI has had all game. Quick pause, unpause. Looks like we're going to get right back into the action, so nothing really to worry about here. But wow, I mean, Pookie Bears, they found their fight and then immediately find another one. It's getting onto Gorica that has been the recipe there, and Kita's done a great job of it twice in a row.
Yeah, it seems like they are really good. They have been really good at identifying where to try and shop the resources and see if it works out so far. So good with Gorica dying twice essentially in those sort of scenarios. And now they need to be able to close it out a little bit more, find the better angles, kill Gorica much more frequently, and Pookie Bear may be staring at in the face of a potential game 1 victory if they are able to do it as well as not as possible.
Definitely Baron going to be up here any second now. And Pookie Bears want to just keep pushing this advantage, pushing this team fight success. Could end up going for it. Strumpus up pretty far. NCT not going to connect to the Glacial Prison. And that will give Strumpus an angle out of there. That's a big engage tool to whiff. Pookie Bear is going to have to play it easy for a little bit, or they can just full send it onto Gorica. Over the wall goes X-Royal, and there's nowhere for this Ezreal to go. Kita finishes him off again. 3 fights in a row in UCI with nothing to play.
But it really is just that easy. You go in, press R, you lock down the Ezreal, and get just goes to collect kills.
Interrupt, but it might cost Cerulean his life here. He will be able to fall back in time. Rosethorn's up here as well. Things are getting messy, TDS. Strumpus on the other side, getting focused down by Che, and NZT takes the public execution in. Kita never got the recall off. He's here to finish the job on the other side. It's just 2 more kills for Pookie Bears. Rosethorn can't finish off anybody. And now the disengage, they're not even going to get the taunt onto the Sejuani. Pookie Bear get away with murder. Triple homicide. They walk on out.
Yeah, they get out with something, and it's really, really not pretty. But they do get out with something really valuable, and that means that now control over the map, control over the Baron is going to be quite ideal for them. And this first turret here in the mid lane probably needs to die for them to 100% have complete control of everything.
It really does. And Baron still a prize on the map. I mean, it's such a chaotic fight there that Pookie Bear don't really get to take it, even though it is a 3-for-0 fight in their favor. They have too many members at too low of HP as a result of the play.
Yep.
But I mean, UCI is going to have to find a way to keep Gorica safe. That last time, just disrespecting the potential of the Camille, losing track of X-Royal, and he just takes an easy angle onto an vulnerable Ezreal.
And that was, though, a game-defining moment in the sense that if he hits the ultimate there, they probably win by a larger margin than just the way that it happened. But it's going to be interesting seeing how it's going to fall down here with the remaining members and with a lot of engaged tools. Also, one thing that we haven't touched much on, but that has been quite interesting, seeing the way that Che has been managing the clones with the Nico. Not necessarily extensive use of the ultimate aggressively, but a lot of just consistent tracking of the opponents and also trying to just make them not be sure of who is going to do what, which I think it's a really important thing to do with the Nico as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it definitely does bring a lot of value to the table, be able to... I mean, it's also been faking people out as NZT a fair amount of time, sending out Sejuani clones to kind of appear as though there's more backup than there may really be. And you've seen Rosethorn chucking out swirl seeds towards him and things like that. It is a little bit of extra value you can get on a Nico if you know what to do and how to use the tools available. Yeah, you just see these clones are coming in all the time, just constantly making you unsure of who may or may not be going in for a potential engage.
They just go forward, but you don't know if it's a forward scary or a forward it's just a clone moment. And you have to be careful every time just for the potential of what may happen with it, as vision control again trying to be cleaned, trying to be controlled a little bit more. But with the way that they are setting themselves up here with 4 members over on the top side and pushing waves, Camilla's by herself, pushing down on bot side and nobody ready to respond until now that the ambassador is going back. But look at this, they have complete space to try and take down this mid lane tier 1.
Yeah, trying to go for the engage here. Knockup connects. It's only onto NZT. They're getting a little bit of poke damage on through, but the Sejuani, 3 items in, is so tanky, just kind of shrugging it off.
Yep.
That's an ultimate. It's 2 ultimates used on that defense, and the next wave is just going to spell death for this turret. Still looking in for an angle on the other side. The top laners are still dueling. Perhaps feeling like they can keep Gorica safe if they know exactly where X-Royal is. NCT stepping on up. Nice one going to connect. Triple pop blossom out of Che. And Kita throws himself to the back line. They're going to get on towards Rosethorn, but gets put to sleep right away. Strumpus is TP'd in, as has X-Royal. He steps forward. 2 kills already. Xiao, Danny, and Rosethorn are too low. X-Royal is all over UCI. And that is a 5-for-0 ace. Pookie Bear dominate the fight and try to take game number 1.
They do have the wave here in the bot side. They have the minions and they have 5 members still completely alive to take it down. Huge team fight. 3-man knockup coming in by Che, but everything is part of the setup that they were able to pull off to make it so that they can finally force a fight in those conditions, and it works out massively well. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be game. 10 seconds or 3 seconds for Cerulean, but game over.
That is it. Pookie Bear with a big comeback in game number 1. UCI looking dominant for so much of that game off of how fed Rosethorn was able to get, and Gorica building up a solid advantage as well. But they just find that Ezreal fight after fight, and it shuts them down. Huge game from X-Royal. Huge game from Kita as well.
Yeah.
With those back-to-back fights, really doing a good job of trading their health bar for Gorica's and recognizing what creates a winning situation.
Yeah, and really goes to show the understanding that Procure had there, because we talked about how, yes, Gorica and Rosethorn were getting ahead in the game, but they were also quite easy to kill. So if they were able to just lock them down, winning fights wasn't going to be necessarily extremely difficult if they were able to take them down. Multiple times Gorica was forced into a weird spot, or he was able to die really quickly in a fight, so he didn't like provide much more damage than he initially was already doing. And that just created so many openings for Kita, for NCT, sorry, and also for X-Royal to be able to find team fights that they wanted to, and just find Gorica multiple times. And Che as well, sorry.
Yeah, no, Che with some fantastic engages and disengages on the Nico as well. That last fight, all on a triple Pop Blossom foul. They did not have X-Royal in for the fight, so they do not have a clear condition for being able to get on towards one of the important carries and take them out. Pop Blossom allows them to isolate away Rosethorn, take them out of the fight early. They're able to finish the rest of the job onto the Ezreal from that point. Super, super well executed team fight. And Pookie Bears, despite some early mistakes, are going to walk away with a 1-0 lead in this series.
Exactly. Starting strong, setting themselves up already for success. And if they find another really good game like they did just now, they maybe can be looking towards qualification already at this point in the tournament.
Absolutely. I mean, we're about to throw it to a quick break, but certainly it could happen here. Do want to give a quick shout out to Zen Market here. You ever had a problem longing for that special Japanese item that you cannot find locally? Zen Market has got a solution for you. They are your one-stop solution for buying products directly from Japan. They'll help you buy items from over 10,000 shops in Japan, as well as place bids on auctions on your behalf. They'll even consolidate all your items into one box and can ship internationally. They provide excellent customer service in 19 languages, which is why they are trusted by over 2 million users worldwide. Check out the panel below the stream or click the link in chat to try them out now. If you sign up with promo code Aegis, you'll get 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. Thank you again to Zen Market, and we will be back with game number 2 in just a few short moments.
迅速な発送ですぐにお届けします。ボクセット？
大丈夫？
でも直接来てくれたの？これって
漫画みたいだったね。
しかも今衣装着てるし、花でもあれば完璧なのに。
完璧だよ。壊れ物だから自分で届けたかったんだ。
あなたって完璧。ありがとう、ゼンマーケット。
Welcome back, everybody, to today's broadcast of the ACL, where Pookie Bear are up 1-0 over UCI in a playoff qualification match. Looking to get in there at the 4-1 bracket. Pretty solid comeback game from them in game number 1, despite some things not going their way early on, and now getting to restart on even footing. Pookie Bear moving over to the red side. Let's see how they want to adapt for pick ban in game number 2.
Yeah, great way to win the first game. Obviously, like you're mentioning, there were a couple of hiccups here and there. Probably the initial part of the game 1 could have been played much better, but they were doing a really good stuff, especially around X Royal. I feel like the bot lane probably was a little bit less impactful, but the way that they played around X Royal's early lead and trying to make this Camille be scary was quite good by Pookie Bear. Now going into game 2 with their change of side, red side now to give them counter pick could potentially be quite ideal for them, as well as the remaining bans come through. The Aurora, the Akali, the Barris, and Jace may not be banned away this game, but I could see Pookie Bear just taking the close to the same 3 bans here.
I could see that as well. Varus going to continue to try to pinch away on towards Kita's pool. The Akali and Aurora both been picks for Sean throughout the season. This does leave up the Jace, which is an interesting choice. Both of these teams, big Jace teams. This also leave up the Rise for the Pookie Bears. So very curious to see what UCI makes the choice to go with here. They're going to get the Jace, and they might get the Rise too, because it's not a champion that Pookie Bear really have played throughout the season. So UCI may have gotten themselves into a very comfortable position to start off their draft.
Yeah, it could be perfectly just 2 comfort picks for the side of UCI. Like you're mentioning, it's not like they play much Rise on the side of Pookie Bear, and that means that you get a little bit more angles here to try and get both champions. Now, maybe Pookie Bear does have a little bit of a counter pick potential here with the fact that they knew that it was going to be the Jace on the other side, and maybe they want to go for something much more specific than just the Jace. But it's kind of difficult to really see which or what they want to kind of go for here.
Yeah, it's difficult to make the call, but looking at the Victor, they will take that one here for Sean. Going to be a first pick for him this season. And now, knowing that they're likely going to be facing off against that Jace in the mid lane, they feel like it is the time to bust it out. Plenty of more high-value junglers still on the board. I wonder if we see one of them. The Pantheon, the Xin Zhao. Stuff that comes to mind is some of those early aggressive picks that people really highly value, and safe to blind always, so they will pick up the Xin Zhao.
Also, if you get on top of them, you can kind of set it up as well with the gravity field, and that way you can lock opponents for quite a while as well. The fact that you can also take damage from a safe distance and have your ultimate to deny some of the damage will come quite handy to try and force some fights here and there. And there's the Rise. We talked about him. It has yet to be picked, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just go for it right here. And then as far as options for the jungle, there's still quite a few tanks that you can go for if you're UCI, if you want to play tankier champions. Like the Skarner is still available, for example. Fight is taken away, but we've seen the Wukong resurgence for quite a bit, and Viego also is quite a fan favorite. So there's tools here for them to try and go for. Leona, though, not a bad option to have some engage, something that they lacked in the previous game. Let's be honest, Mbessa wasn't the right engage tool for them. It wasn't as effective at all. So having this Leona much more straightforward and much better to try and lock down someone on the side of Pookie Bears.
Yeah, comfort pick for Cerulean as well here. Do you want to call out? I mean, you see this UCI draft, and you may assume it's probably Jace top, Rise mid. I would actually put money on it being the other way around. Big Jace fan is Xiao Danny. Big Rise fan is Strumpus. They could switch them up, but I think it is more likely that we see the Jace in mid and the Rise up top. Karma locked in for Pookie Bear. So could be for Che, who is definitely a player that's very comfortable playing these kinds of ranged supports. Could also feel like it's a strong setup against the Leona, but I'm not going to rule out that it could be a top lane pick up against the Rise.
I was thinking the same for Rise. Exactly. You do have the wave clear there. You also have good trading patterns with a lot of sustain as well that you can go for. So not surprised that it could end up being one of the options that they opt into with this, especially because with the S roll down in the bot lane, you kind of take away one of his preferred partners for this Karma. The other choices could be like poke AD carries or long range AD carries like the Ashe or like the Caitlyn. But I think the S roll feels like the premier one. And yeah, UCI understanding this, also banning away the Ashe, The Jarvan here, I like the ban because that's also another great engage tool, and it does leave a fewer pool of junglers trying to focus if you want to go for engage, or if you really want to have a lot of lockdown in the jungle instead.
Yeah, it definitely does. So Ashe ban coming on through, likely going to be another marksman pinch here, if that is what they are concerned about. I think the fact that the flex karma makes it feel bad to try to ban top laners or supports at this stage. And just try to get that pool more pinched, although it will be first crack at 80 carry coming out of Pookie Bears. All right, so they get a chance here. Take what they would like. Kita's most played have been the Ezreal and the Varus, one of those banned, one of those fearless away. So gonna have to rely on something else. The Jhin is gonna be banned for them as well. So I do wonder where the prio will fall here. You got a nice scaling team fighter in the Victor.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you have that with that karma, especially if it's karma top, you can go for something a little hyper carry. I mean, the Corki is comfortable for everybody, and they might just all right, a Tristana. I like a Tristana actually. I think playing it as a little bit more of a late game carry now, since it's got its early and mid game damage tamped down. Definitely an option, and with already one enchanter, maybe even two if it's karma top, I think this works well for them.
Well, there was a time where Lulu Tristana wasn't a bad duo, and not necessarily coming in on the bot lane, but more so Tristana 80 carry and then Lulu playing in the solo lanes. That was actually quite useful to try and buff up the Tristana and just get a lot of value from her resets. In the bot lane though, I'm kind of interested in seeing how it's going to work out. Then a Fury going to come here as well, so having a little bit more of an aggressive physical damage jungler on the side of UCI, and it also means that 6 bot lane here, so not against it, just based off the fact that having this wave clear is going to be ideal there, but you're depending a lot of your damage on this Jace and Fury, and the Tristana late game is going to be really wild to try and stop that.
Whoa! All right. I mean, I saw Agorica Kog'Maw game against UHSP in CLOL, and he popped off in that Kog'Maw game.
Was it with or without an enchanter support?
I believe it was Lulu Cog. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I believe it was a Lulu Cog game. So a little different with the Leona, I'm not going to lie to you. But now Cerulean, or rather Che, looking at the Alistar.
Makes more sense with the Tristana.
Punt out the Leona, punt out the Neferi, and that'll be locked in. So that's going to guarantee karma top for X-Royal as a counterpick to the Rise or Jace, whoever ends up
What
up
if it's
there.
Victor top?
Yeah, I mean, it could also be Victor top, I suppose. That would surprise me a little more. I don't know why you would put Victor top.
There was a time we need to.
There was a time.
I just think Tristana Alistar though, I like that a little bit more just because it does incentivize more the sort of playstyle that we have always seen for the Tristana, right? Engage at level 2, you jump in with your bomb, you deal an exaggerated amount of damage, although much lesser now, but it's still an exaggerated amount of damage, and then you're able to repeat that to try and force a kill. With the Alistar, your engage potential is just that much better, and it also gives you a little bit of a beefier front line. And like you're mentioning, pushing away the Leona is going to be much easier with an Alistar as well.
Yeah, it really is. And so we're going to check on out how these two teams are going to be able to navigate on this one. Scoreboard's not updated, by the way, but it is Pookie Bears up 1-0. Pookie Bears now going to be looking to take this game number 2 and see if they can find themselves qualified for playoffs already. I do think the Agorica Kog'Maw very, very dangerous, though, and not the best ways to reach it on this composition. I mean, the Xin Zhao Alistar really going to have to pay a lot of heed towards the threat of the Void monster there and make sure that they can get onto it. Otherwise, you do risk them kind of running away with things.
Yeah, there is going to be a lot of frontal engage coming in from the side of Pookie Bears that may be scary just because Kog'Maw, when you're trying to come face first into him, he does deal a lot of obscene damage immediately, and that can dissuade you from trying to force like that. But if you're able to get on top of him, there's nothing to really protect him when you think about it. Leona may stun you once, Rise as well, but realistically, there's no pill potential just because there's no enchanter to buff him up. So that means that if he goes in and gets picked off in a weird spot, he's pretty much dead mate. If he's able to play around the fact that you're going to try and reach him and find really good pacing distance to not allow them to really get on top of him, then he can carry the fight out. And if I'm going to believe in someone, Gorica makes a lot of sense here on the side of UCI, but it's really going to be dependent on how they execute around this Kog'Maw.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a very different draft than game number 1, but you'd be remiss to not mention, right? Game number 1 felt like a game where the result was determined by Gorica on Ezreal getting found in back-to-back fights, and UCI losing their lead and losing the game off of it. Now you are on Kog'Maw, a champion much more vulnerable to getting picked off. So a lot of responsibility on this guy's shoulders after what was a little bit of a rough showing there. Of course, no Camille to lock you down this game. That feels a little bit better. No Sejuani to lock you down this game. That feels a little bit better, but still something that you're going to have to be on the lookout for.
Exactly. The more chances you get to actually play the game, the better it's going to be playing the game. So for Gorica, at least this time around, not having to be dealing with that Camille, going to be a tad bit better, and it's going to be fun seeing the battle of the AD carries going to the later stages of the game, because previous game, it felt like Gorica was having a great time, and then out of nowhere, Kita really popping up with some of those teamfight positionings, forcing certain moments onto Gorica, and then not allowing the Ezreal to really do anything at all. So I want to see how they execute on this game, both with engaged support, both with champions that can kind of outplay depending on how you see it, and then they can deal a lot of damage as well to each other.
They really can. So we get into the loading screen here. Wait out our spec delay. I'm very curious to see, like, X-Royal is a player I really associate with these kinds of off-the-wall top lane counter picks, stuff like this Karma, but it is it hasn't been like his story this season, right? He's been playing a lot more standard run-of-the-mill top lane picks over the course.
It's like he was trying to become a more standard one.
Yeah, you know, a more well-rounded top laner, you might say. You don't want to get pigeonholed into, oh, this guy only plays weird stuff. So it's understandable as you're, you know, trying to move further and further up the OQ ladder, as it may be. But I'd love to see that he's still willing to go for this kind of stuff when the situation is right. And when you're facing down Strumpus Rise top, that very well may be the very situation we are talking about. Did call it, by the way. It is Xiao Danny, J Smith. It is Strumpus Rise top. So both of these players going to be on arguably their favorite champions in the current moment. Strumpus Rise, probably his favorite champion ever.
Yeah, probably the one that they certainly wanted to play the most for this game. And even though it's not an elimination game, we need to remember that this is a game that could define a lot of the seeding potential and also what their future opponents may look like if they're not careful enough. So it's quite an important game, and I think them getting this sort of comfort champions here is going to be really ideal to set up a nice space for the rest of the team and for themselves as well.
Yep, every game matters. It's the appeal of the format in a lot of ways, and certainly not going to have any exception here, as Strumpus really looking to make sure that his team can have as easy of a pathway deeper into the tournament as possible on his patented Rise. Going to see if Pookie Bears are able to close out this series, though. We got to be confident after being able to come back into things in game number 1. Going to look to see if they can improve on that, maybe not even fall behind in this game number 2.
Yeah, I would think ideally you want to not fall extremely behind, or not extremely, but you don't want to fall behind early on in a way that you're forced to try and outplay everything and turn around the game. So I'm more than likely expecting to see them be able to play out this game much better. But it's also going to be dependent on what UCI is going to be able to accomplish here, because just as we mentioned that they played a later stage of the game on the side of Pookie, the early game from UCI was really good. Early gank into bot lane, setting up Gorica for success. Even though we saw death from Strumpus, he still was able to find multiple opportunities to be valuable. And then team fighting wise, the first 15 to 20 minutes were quite good from the side of UCI. It was really setting up or looking like they were going to be able to close out the game, but just better understanding of what they wanted to do and better positioning meant that Pookie was going to come ahead on top. So I think that this game may be quite close, and it really could just fall on a coin toss at one objective to define the winner.
Yeah, I also want to see how these lane matchups work out, right? I mean, Xiao Danny now on a carry was doing really well in lane up against Sean in game number 1, but it was just on the Galio, so it's like, you know, what's Galio really going to do to you? And now X-Royal getting to be on this Karma, feeling like it's a good matchup into the Rise. Karma Xin Zhao, a well-established and dangerous duo up on the top side as well. Expect to see the Pookie Bear squad play towards those grubs and towards that Rift Herald using that duo. They can be so dangerous together, so check out what this early game going to look like as UCI versus Pookie Bear onto the Rift for game number 2 of the night.
Yeah, going to start quite strong here, going to try and see what they can accomplish on each of the sides, and potentially going to start with a certain composition. It's looking like both teams not really wanting to mess with each other just now, so they'll try and wait a little bit more, see what they can get in terms of vision, or if they just want to see each other in the lane as soon as it starts.
Yeah, for sure. So far, just a spread from both squads. Nobody wants to go for anything too aggressive. Neither team rocking, the most dangerous level 1 comps in the world. I do think the Karma pretty strong in particular, but instead just gonna be dogs from Rosethorn going out and scouting. It's not Glizzy Nefiri for the first time in a long time. So
is that the one that looks like a hot dog? I think it is.
Yes, Glizzy Nefiri is the one that looks like a hot dog. I feel like everybody uses that skin, but Rosethorn rocking what looks to be like Battlecast.
Like I will admit my perception of reality is a little bit messed up, because since I've been playing a lot of TFT, I have seen just the Project Nefiri skin consistently, so I don't remember exactly which skins players do use, but I do think it's probably that one the most used, especially after the tweet from LCK about, I think the white sauce it was, something about that.
Yeah, I don't know. There's all sorts of different Glizzy Nefiri skins. I'm a Chicago dog guy myself, but there's some real gross ones. There's some real the one that's just green. The hot dog is green. Is just a little. That's a bridge too far for me, but it is funny enough to be worth playing for sure.
The moldy dog. So far, nothing really out of the ordinary here. Just a little bit of trading, a little bit of attacking each other, missing a few CS. Actually, Kita really down in the CS department here, and quick level 2 for both Cerulean and Gorica means that there's not going to be any control for the bot side of Pookie.
Yeah, a rough situation there when it takes too long to get to level 2. They do ticket here. Che uses the headbutt just to give them the space to be able to farm that one up. Some real dangerous power spikes there from the Kog'Maw when he just has the Bio-Arcane Barrage. It's just so dangerous and gives you a lot of extra damage. With that, plus the Leona just being a more useful level 1 champion than the Alistar, does let them build up that early lead, but at the end of the day, we'll be able to clear out most of the wave underneath the turret. Gonna end up down a little less than a wave of CS.
Yeah, the thing though now is that with level 2 at the very least, you can kind of threaten this Kog'Maw, right? This is the point where you finally do feel like you can actually be a champion as Che here, and maybe force a little bit more onto them. But the other lanes, Karma pushing, Picture pushing, there is good control coming in on the side of Pookie from those lanes, and maybe can try and set up something for the Xin Zhao whenever he wants to look for these lanes. Or even enemy jungle.
Yeah, perhaps. Really keeping my eyes on these junglers early on when you really want to see the Nefiri snowball, but the Xin Zhao can be so dangerous for those first couple of levels. Either jungler getting a leg up on the other could have big impacts for the game here, as they do get some good damage onto Gorica here, but Cerulean able to disrupt the continued play. Now, big wave crashing in.
They want to die.
NCT want to full send it on this one. Taking Gorica out of the game would be huge. Headbutt into the wall. Dash forward, not able to land. The wind becomes lightning, but Kita still finding some damage there. Stunned up Cerulean, doing so much work on the Leona to get his Kog'Maw out of danger. And now Rosethorn arrives to the scene to try to clean it up. It's going to be first blood. A jump reset for Kita. He gets in there to finish off Gorica, flashing away from the corpse of the Kog'Maw, but Rosethorn still hunting them down, going to be able to get 2, and soon going to make it 3. Che in so deep here. He's the last of his mana on the headbutt. Can Rosethorn chase him down? The double daggers, the dogs underneath the turret, but the turret's doing too much damage. Invulnerability to dodge the last shot, and Rosethorn picks up Feat of Warfare single-handedly.
Yeah, that has to sting. Dying to the invulnerability dog at the end there. That's why some people hate the champion, by the way, and fully understandable. And a 3-4-2. Surprised though that the wind becomes lightning does not connect in that animation. I thought that as soon as they stunned them, I thought that was just a connection immediately. But yeah, made the difference completely there. That was the difference between winning and losing that fight 100%.
Yep. Royal trying to play around with his slows and his slight range advantage on the rise to try to be able to find that important harass. Yeah, the fact that I mean that's an interesting trade bot lane at the end of the day, right? It's definitely a big gold advantage for Kita in the 2-on-2. Denies a ton of CS from Gorica. Gorica doesn't get any of the kill credit. 2 kills go over to Kita, so huge win for the Pookie Bears bot lane, but a triple kill onto Nefiri pre-level 6. That's a great way to start off a game on an assassin jungle.
Yeah, so the big difference here is going to come down to, can Kita kill someone before Roadstone kills him, kind of thing. And it's a good enough like question as that was a stun.
Ooh, getting in there again. Once again, Cerulean doing so much to disrupt these plays and buy space. Che triggers the passive for a big heal. Gorica coming on in. NZT dives in. Wind becomes lightning, connects this time, and Gorica's down again. Now, will they be able to get Kita out of dodge in time? Able to jump right back over the wall. And now this is a kill donated to the Tristana. Kita now 3-1. Gorica 0-2. Pookie Bear having themselves the kind of game they want into the Kog'Maw.
Mastering the art of baiting their perfect setup in that position, enabling Kita so that he wouldn't die just like that in that position, and actually just baiting them for NCT to arrive perfectly there. Actually forgot NCT still had flash. I thought because of all the confusion he used it before, but no, he still has it available, and that means good kills for Kita, a lot of damage now this Tristana will have. And also Ghost and Flash are both down for Gorica, but Ghost will be up soon. So maybe they can play around that as well on the UCI side if they are careful enough.
Yeah, definitely an opportunity here. I mean, I need to see Rosethorn really flex this lead now, because that early bot lane play has snowballed into a second bot lane play, and it could snowball into a third on its own. Even if it doesn't, this is a big lead for Kita in the bottom lane. Gorica's still level 4 here. Just calling over Che to be able to keep these brawls going, and each one just makes the next one easier to be a Pookie Bear success. Both junglers topside at this very moment. I don't think they've seen Rosethorn in a while, so they do have to pay some respect towards him, but a really, really strong start. 30 seconds to go until the grub spawn, so expect to see NZT up there to make use of this Karma Xin Zhao duo and try to claim themselves these grubs.
Interestingly though, although maybe now Che is beginning to move because of that, we didn't see a trade of places for that potential grub fight. It's what happened in the previous game where they actually sent X-Royal down there with his lead, and then they sent the bot lane to try and respond to a potential grub fight. This time around though, it's only Che that trying to move around, but actually just both bot lanes will just wait here and see what happens. It's going to be only a 3v3 or actually no fight.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to actually try to trade it for the dragon here. The fact that Rosethorn is 3-0, I guess just a little too scary, and they don't want to take the time and effort to move Kita up there. So instead going to keep themselves locked into this winning 2-on-2, going to get themselves the dragon, and going to sacrifice the grubs for it. Full 3 grubs is strong though. I mean, 3 grubs is now what 6 grubs was last patch. So this is a big forfeit for Pookie Bear.
I'm thinking maybe their thought process is, because we don't have really any champion that can actually make the most use out of that, then it's not completely worth it. Oh, Che? That's fine. It's not completely worth it. So they decide that instead of that, just opt into the dragon scaling condition. That is going to be another buff that is worth fighting for. And if we can force an early soul, then maybe that can be our win condition as well.
Yep, and then just using the strength of their bot lane. NCT actually just split the uprights. He threw out the Wind Becomes Lightning, and he didn't hit either Krug.
I think it was just I think it spawned just as he threw it out, so he didn't hit anyone of them.
Well, that's rough as well. Either way, did not connect the W onto a Krug, so didn't get to continue his counter jungling. Got the red buff, though. That's the big prize here. And knew that Kita and Che would be there to back him up. So about a 2-wave advantage for Kita now on this Tristana, in addition to the kills. Looking like they're going to be able to get onto their first item here. Yep, the Wild Arrow is complete. And this is a huge power spike that Gorica, I doubt, will be able to match. This is probably a first item Gunsu's, and I do not think he has the money for it.
No, I don't think so either. I was thinking maybe he goes for some boots to try and alleviate some of the potential distance pain that the Alistair has been able to go with, but he's going all in on being able to comprise his damage into buying that Ginsu as soon as possible, and also a cloth armor maybe to survive the big burst damage from Kita. But with first item completed, I think Kita will have enough damage to be able to kill anyone, or at the very least someone. You
know, Sean doing a solid job in lane up against Xiao Danny here. Hasn't really given up any opportunities for this Jace to come in and punish him. Has even picked up a plate for his efforts, just repeatedly shoving in the wave, even in CS. And yeah, I mean, this is a matchup where I've seen Xiao Danny really take some people to town. He is really able to find some good, strong, aggressive angles on this Jace in the one-on-one, and just hasn't played out that way this game.
Yeah, and there is a reason why it gets banned away against them consistently, and this time around, Pookie is finding good angles to try and just stop it from being an actual threat, and not allowing Xiao Danny to really find much more opportunities than that. And because of that process, it's actually so much more beneficial for Sean, because as long as he farms, as long as he gets his Hexor upgrades, he's going to be a monster later on. He will... I was thinking of a word with evolution, but I forgot.
Upgrade?
So, yes, but I wanted to use like glorious evolution in a way that was smart, but now I forgot. So evolution.
Yeah, I mean, that's the glorious evolution is the Victor tagline for sure.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
There's going to be a snag on Nikita, but he's able to buffer it. Now getting on in there. Not quite finding the pulverize is Che, and Rosethorn is waiting in the wings. Nikita and Che do not chase any further, so will not give over that opportunity. And another sight on Rosethorn on that red buff that was stolen away earlier. Oh, good information for Pookie Bear to have.
Cerulean has been really good at stopping every attempt from Che to do something against the Kog'Maw, which, when we were talking about potentially peeling for this Kog'Maw, that is already a great showing for them to have.
Really is. Xiao Danny, you can see, still going in for these aggressive trades, proccing his phase rush, getting out, not falling victim to the gravity well. Che just posturing up in this lane, trying to build up this CS lead further and further, knowing what a strong power spike Kita is on here in comparison to Gorika's Kog'Maw and just components.
Well, there is quite a strong power spike as well.
In case the fight breaks out, but it's just not happening.
Yeah, but there is quite a strong power spike as well on Rosethorn, having already that completed item, plus the extra damage that he will be able to deal with. Just the burst damage from the assassin is going to be quite great. Oh. Okay, I thought there was going to happen something there. I really thought something was going to happen.
Nah, I guess not. Gunsu's completed for Gorika now, so he gets himself out of the danger a little bit. I do think this will give Kita a moment to take another plate or two. So that's another little influx of gold. But the Gunsu's completed. I mean, Gorika navigating this lane as best he can. Still going to be at a deficit. Kita going to pick up even more gold here, while Che is unleashed to go walk around. I didn't see if he got 1 or 2 plates. Looks like just 1, because it was
he only got 1
before. 2 plates total. And even a little bit of a bounty now going over to Kita.
Kita thinking, oh,
wow,
Kita
going in, doesn't think Cerulean's there, immediately realizes the error of his ways, but it might be too late. Gorika solo kill. Cerulean doesn't even get his name on there. Yeah,
but all of that falls on Kita's back, because I'm not sure what Che was doing. Well, he was getting corralled. He was getting corralled by Nefiri as well on the side. Rosethorn was getting on the back, so he was dead. If he goes back there, he needs to run forward and flash. But this all comes from Kita. Kita's mistake. Strumpest?
Yeah, I mean, just a big misread from Kita there. Thought Cerulean was out roaming around. Was dead wrong. And that is a big injection back into Gorika, getting that shutdown gold, getting some alone time in the lane. Huge win for him. He goes back, he gets the tabby off of it. Well, underneath the turret, NZT not quite going to be able to get on a Strumpus there, who throws down the ultimate.
Wait,
Strumpus trying to get away. Xiao Danny engaged on in the 1 versus 2. Kita able to get the reset, gets knocked back away. Strumpus is low on top side. NZT not going to be able to do that underneath the turret. Che finds Xiao Danny again, gets him underneath the turret. Beautiful headbutt from Che. And now Xiao Danny just corralled on the wrong side of the map. He's got a 3-level lead over Kita's Tristana, but if you can't one-shot her, you're not going to be able to make much use of that at all. Careful to donate the kill to Tristana. Gorika forced to flash in mid, and everybody's up too far. Pookie Bear walk away with another kill.
How is NCT still alive, by the way?
Rosethorn thinks he's found X-Royal.
Wait, X-Royal.
Huge injection of health from the ult W, and NCT here to help out. Flash away from the solar flare. Critical. Cerulean going in to follow up for more CC, but a big shield out of X-Royal, keeping NCT alive. Rosethorn goes underneath the turret, able to juggle the turret aggro appropriately, and they get themselves a kill on the jungler. Che is up here now as well, but X-Royal is running out of mana. They're going to have to let this one go.
There were so many shields there by X-Royal, but it was a 3v2, and the 3v2 almost always goes in favor of the one that has the 3 members. Turret down in the top lane, it's going to be answered with a turret in the bot lane, and potentially maybe one in the mid lane. Actually, a turret in the mid lane and one in the bot lane. Really weird situation where we see Xiao Danny dying in bot side, then also Gorika having to force flash out of nowhere in the mid lane. Who knows what he was trying to attempt onto Sean. And even though it's been so quiet, Sean has accrued so much gold by himself just by the mere value of X16 as the victor. Also Herald falling down, so this mid lane turret on the side of Pookie Bear may fall down really soon. But so far, a really contested game going tit for tat on both sides.
Yeah, and while it is a 2-for-1 tower trade for the Pookie Bears, the first turret goes to UCI, which nets them the full feats of warfare, so they do have access to the boot upgrades. Once again, I am going to keep calling that out because it is a bigger advantage now than it used to be.
Remember, new patch
being actually worth purchasing in the mid game.
Exactly, it does give more value, especially if you're a little bit further ahead, like Roastorn is right now. Getting that extra value from the boots may be quite ideal. Hasn't gone for them just yet, but he will burst a lot of people up with those 2 items already completed. And need to remember, Kita has no flash. Oh, and maybe dead here. Insta cleanse.
Going to cleanse, jump away. Here's a response play on the bot side, looking to get onto Xiao Danny, not landing that 3rd strike, and now Rosethorn is here. Have Pookie Bear overplayed their hand, going to try to navigate their way out of this. It's a TP being channeled. They're going to try to fight for it. They've got the Chaos Storm on top of Rosethorn. He's forced to retreat, does not end up going down. X-Royal's here as well. NCT can't find the last shot. Sean finally going to be able to finish him off at X-Royal, layering in the shield, keeping Sean alive. He finally drops down, but Xiao Danny fallen so low as well. It's a jump in from Kita. It's a double reset from Kita. Make it 3, make it 4, make it an ace to Pookie Bear as they dominate another fight.
And a little bit of Goomba stomping here and there by Kita, but he finds multiple kills. They survive for so damn long on the side of Pookie Bear. And I thought that was going to be UCI's thing. They survived for a long time as well. But the shields coming in from X-Royal, the extra shielding from Victor as well, and then Alistair arriving on the right timing to CC them down and up so that there's Kita time for him to just arrive and kill a lot of people. 6-2 now on the Tristana, and also X-Royal 2-0 on the Karma. Huge fight by Pookie Bear, and with a minute to go for this next dragon, 2 items completed. An Infinity Edge. That's going to be so much. And also a lot of healing as well from this Karma thanks to these next items as well.
Moonstone Renewer picked up, going for a hybrid AP support style on this top lane Karma. And those shields from X-Royal making such a difference in the last fight. NZT and Sean staying up on a knife's edge in that fight, surviving way too long, and being able to pump out much more damage before they go down, enabling Pookie Bear to come away with that fight win. A 3k gold lead for them. Now Sean about to get collapsed on, though. 3 members on the Victor. Just going to return as much damage as he can, but he is done for.
Yeah, that was a lot of damage coming down there. It also means that with this push, Strumpest may try and get this turret here. They have the Herald as well. They can go for a double push, actually.
Very well could. Going to charge on in here. We'll be able to take out that inner. So there's just nobody here to respond. X-Royal has assigned themselves elsewhere. Huge gold swing for UCI, bringing the lead back to very close. They are going to charge in, actually making the call to go towards a mid lane instead. Will they be able to wrap it all the way back? They will. Yes. Rulian gets that one in there. And they should be able to take this down unless Pookie Bear it's a double knockup from Che. There's the lockdown coming through onto Kita. He doesn't cleanse. He doesn't have it available. And there's going to be a kill picked up for Rosethorn. Will he be able to get out in time, though? Stunned up by the gravity well. Sean layering in the damage that they need. NCT buying time. The backside will be executed down by another shock blast. And Sean, is the only damage dealer, just cannot dish it out in time. And will be a 2-for-1 in favor of UCI. And with that, plus the top lane plays earlier, we're right back to pretty much dead even.
Yeah, great team fight there by the side of UCI. They bursted Kita immediately. Really important that Serpent's Fang able to just kill some of the shielding that Kita was receiving there. And that's the thing. If Kita gets overly focused, he's going to die immediately. There needs to be protection for the Tristana in the way that she's going to try and play the fight. And if it's forced like that in that situation where Sean is not available or NCT is a little bit far behind, then that can be just a perfect fight coming in from UCI. That being said, that fight also had a great knockup and a few members escaping by the thread of the skin. If Hina is alive in that situation, more than likely we see a cleanup from the Tristana once again. So these fights are going to be decided by way too little margins, and they need to be pretty specific on who they want to target and how they want to kill them.
Yeah, I really want to highlight Karuli in this game. I think despite the fact that the bot lane went so poorly, has really been clutch in both buying time and space for Gorica and making bad situations not as bad as they could have been, and finding the lockdowns on Nikita. I mean, did so much in that last fight to be able to prevent that Tristana from being able to make anything happen. Really nicely played, and now finding themselves in a parity situation and what was looking like it was falling apart for them. Rosethorn still flexing his muscles on this Nefiri. Oh, wow, that's an ultimate committed from Sean in that top lane 1v1. As they look, they have Rosethorn caught out. They find the connection on that snare. Flash away from Che, able to dodge out with the invulnerability. NZT not going to land the wind, becomes lightning either. There's a TP in from Strumpus, so it's going to be numbers for Pookie Bear, as Sean does not have access to TP to be able to rejoin. X-Royal going to be able to flash over the wall in time. Still going to try to support the teammates. That's a reset over to Rosethorn. A 1-for-1 trade now. Jungler for support. Rosethorn and Che taking health bars, falling back away. Moonstone Renewer can only do so much for you.
Yeah, they will be able to take down this turret. It feels like they have two members pushing. Oh, Rosethorn.
Sean finding a little damage. He doesn't have the Chaos Storm, remember. He used it against Strumpist.
Yeah, they are able to take down this turret, and in the meanwhile, it does mean that there's not going to be enough potential here to protect some of the jungle. They do get a kill for a kill here, but it is the jungler for the support. It's not the most ideal one. Rosethorn, his invulnerability has been so valuable here to deny some of the engaged potentials, but it's also playing a little bit too close to comfort, where he's getting CC'd in some situations where if there's more damage, once again, he probably gets bursted out. So they really need to play well enough between the threat of danger and also the potential danger in a well enough manner so that they don't get executed immediately. But this game, probably we're going to see a bigger definition come the next dragon or the Atakan that is already alive.
Yeah, lots to fight for still. Faint gold lead to UCI, but nothing settled here by any means. Pookie Bear up 2 dragons to 1. We'll have another shot at 1 in 90 seconds. They're actually going to start up the Otacon here. There are a lot of members top lane for UCI right now. Strumpus is going to see what they're up to, though. Otacon takes a long time to do. But it's not like there's TPs here. Xiao Danny could TP on down, but there's still 2 members in mid. Otacon below half HP. This TP is probably too late. I don't think Rosethorn's going to get here in time. Pookie Bear with a free Thorn-bound Otacon.
Yeah, here may be a potential fight, although, wait, look at the side.
They find Gorica, beautiful wait by Che inside the Dragon Pit. They assassinate the carry. X-Royal taking tons of damage from Rosethorn on the other side. He's likely going to fall down, but it's already a double kill. He jumps right into the thick of it. He's able to take down the dog. 4 kills for 2 to Pookie Bear off the back of the Otacon.
Yeah, the dog is disgusting. He almost survived that fight perfectly fine and did so much damage, but it didn't matter. Huge angle there by Che. Not only finding Gorica initially there, playing around the fog of war inside of the Dragon Pit, forcing the engage, killing Gorica immediately, and then running back into the team fight. They do kill X-Royal really quickly, and it's proving that even though there's a lot of shielding and a lot of healing on the Karma, Rosethorn has the means to be able to destroy that, thanks to the Serpent's Fang. But because they already killed Gorica, after killing the Fury, it's very easy to just run the rest of the fight down. And even though Kita is doing a lot of damage, John is also doing a lot of damage, NCT is doing a lot of damage as well, so they can try and force fights in their favor in that sense. And we're going to see a repetition once again with most members coming back here for round 2.
Yeah, I mean, Ultimate's going to start coming back on up. I think Sean and Kita is going to still be a little ways to go. You have that Thornbound buff, though, and you have X-Royal with this additional shielding and the healing from the Moonstone Renewer. Dragon falling lower and lower. NCT about to finish it on off. It's looking like it's a full 5-on-5. Double knockup comes through from Che. Dragon is smited down by Pookie Bear's NCT in the front line with the Crescent Guard. Xiao Danny taking too much damage on the flank. Kita jumps over to try to find him. Won't quite be able to get the execute, but the health bars are dropping lower and lower for UCI. Che finds another double knockup in the front line on the Alistair, but the follow-up damage cannot be found. Lasers going wide, still not chunking them down low enough to be able to solidify the fight. Kita takes another shock blast to his back, and all 10 players stay alive, but the dragon goes to Pookie Bear.
Yeah, nobody may have died, but the dragon did die in that situation, and it is going to be advantage Pookie Bear in that sense. So little the margin of mistake that they can go for here. Roadstone may try and steal this. Actually, Roadstone.
Yeah, getting too greedy for the red buff, goes invulnerable, but he is picked and taken out. Pookie Bear find the enemy jungle, and this could be Baron for them.
Yeah, they have a lot of damage. There's no teleport on Xiao Danny now. Gorica may be here on the side, but he is a cockmouth. He may get engaged on. Although Che... Wait, Che went on the side. Yeah, no, this should be Baron. There's barely any chance for them to stop it.
It's a TP from Strumpus, though. UCI recognizing this may be the game here. They need to full send it. They need to challenge for this Baron. Turret does fall on down. They're able to blow up Sean. Maybe up a little bit too far, but Kita finds a reset. Kita's got an angle onto the remaining members. Gorica had his front line, but it's evaporated, and he'll get mauled by 4 bears. Pookie Bears walk away with an ace.
Yeah, this bear doesn't look Pookie at all. It looks actually kind of mighty. They are just running, all 5 of them, without fear of anything at all, and they are pushing UCI to the limit in some of these fights, but they are making it work out so well. It starts with a big mistake from Roadstone on the jungle, really not understanding why he was trying to force so heavily there. Yes, you may have invulnerability, but that lasts so long. Your flash, I think, was down just a tad bit at that sense. And also, even though you may get invulnerable, if I'm not wrong, Karma Tether does not go away. So you get stunned anyway in that situation. And he's not respecting that at all in most of those places. He gets killed. Then the Baron is pretty easy to fight because there's no teleport on Xiao Danny. There's no follow-up from some of the members that just backed away from the previous fight. And it's so easy for them to be able to get the kill. He may not die here, but he died in the crucial moment.
I mean, Che's behind him.
Yeah,
I am so impressed by Che on this Alistair. And here he is, going to force out the invulnerability. Doesn't quite land the knockout by Caster Curse, my boy, a little bit there.
Yeah.
But Che will once again look for a creative angle, use Hex Flash and the pit to his advantage. Rosethorn trying a little Che impression here. Strumpus is as well, although his is going to succeed. He finds Sean. Sean going to try to fight back with the help of that Chaos Storm, pumping out good damage into this Rise with the level 3 ultimate. But Carulian makes it an unfair fight and gets the pick.
Yeah, 2v1 there because the Cogmon didn't do anything. 2v1 wasn't fair there. So it's a turret for a kill so far here. Maybe actually a turret for a turret because Xiao Dan is going to get uncontested. So far though, the Baron buff not being the biggest avenue to try and destroy the base from UCI. Sean did make a big mistake dying in that situation, but it's still going to be enough for them to take down some turrets, gain some gold, and also be alive for that last fight that will happen in a couple of minutes. Or 1 minute 30 actually.
1 minute 30. And that's going to be a potential soul for Pookie Bears. They're able to secure it, and they have been so strong in these team fights. They have not had time to get Gorica online here. Kita up a whole item and a half over Gorica at this stage, and that not showing any signs of letting up. Has the additional support of X-Royal on the Karma, so has an Enchanter at their back as well, something that the Kog'Maw certainly wishes he had.
Yeah, probably would have survived a little bit evaporated. More. Wait, Sean once again walking too far forward here, may get collapsed, and he does have flash though. Ooh.
Oh, we will see.
Wait,
he's got backup in the jungle. Strumpus and X-Royal exchanging some blows here. Rosethorn going to show top lane. They keep this siege going, but if X-Royal keeps his distance, I just don't think they're going to be able to find an angle to actually drive this.
Too difficult. Dragon spawning in 20 seconds. They do bring now the Leona. Oh.
All right, X-Rail just popped the W ulti. Here comes Strumpus and Carulian trying to make the dive happen with the Realm Warp, but Pookie Bear are ready. They've got 4 members, and everyone just dives in onto the UCI sitting ducks. A massive Chaos Storm for Sean. A 4-for-0 team fight for Pookie Bears and UCI. They burned what they were cooking.
Yeah, they were trying to cook way too much, and I guess they probably didn't have the rat from Ratatouille, just a random rat that they picked up, and that is not going to cook well at the end of the day. Pushing onto the mid lane, they take down... Actually, they don't take down the mid lane turret, but they will probably get the soul, and they will try and get this inhibitor as well.
Yeah, they should be able to double dip here and get them both. They have so many members alive. Gorica, I mean, no frontline for you this time, buddy. You're just going to have to watch this drop. So this is going to be Soul plus mid lane inhibitor, and Pookie Bear in a dominant position to potentially close out this series and lock ACL playoffs.
Yeah, locking playoffs with a roster that we didn't know much from apart from some of the players. Probably was looking a little bit iffy with some of the changes that they were trying to do, but has been working out so far today. And oh wait, Strump is alone here.
Yeah, that's looking like good lockdown. And huge shield out of X-Royal, but after all the damage has already came and went, so it doesn't actually end up doing much of anything. Turn fire onto Strumpus as they try to get away onto the blast cone. They will be able to jump over in time.
They will lose the red buff. Finally, Roadstone able to get it. I was looking for that red buff since a while ago, but finally able to get it. Still, it's not going to be the biggest prize, and already Tristana full items, the Karma also having essentially 6 items, doesn't even know what to go for. He's just selling and buying items.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of great options left. They are getting the tier 3 boots over at UCI. Let's see if those things are broken enough to yank them back into this from a 6k gold deficit. If we make it to 6 items, it'll be a pretty sizable advantage. I don't know if Pookie Bears are going to give us that much time, though, as they've got Chemtech Soul. They've got themselves a huge advantage.
They know that Roadstone is here.
They're gearing up for this Baron.
Not again, Roadstone, please.
I mean, he's in too deep now. There's no way out but through, and he will likely be hunted down here, just trying his best to buy time. This is 5 seconds before Baron spawns, by the way, so this is probably Baron for Pookie Bears.
Yep, going to be Baron buff. Also, there is a push from Shout Any there that may turn into turret. Actually, they need to be careful. There's multiple members going down there, and they have a lot of minions as well. So this could turn into an inhibitor, maybe more if they are not careful enough, but it's going to be at the very least inhibitor.
Yeah, going to look to see what they can make happen. Shay is on to Gorica, though, flashes in, finds the double knockup, but it's only Sean for the damage. Shay going to pop that Unbreakable Will, staying strong in the front line, gets another knockup. Cerulean able to get ported out, though. Strumpus did not have the Realm Warp interrupted, and they will be able to find the disengage. So UCI, they sneak themselves an inhib, and they get out, seeing to see if they can find a curious angle back into this one, or try to sneak away the game on a backdoor.
Yeah, I really thought the one that was cancelled there was the Rise, but at the end it's just the Leona able to escape anyway. They did get the Baron buff, and it's still a super minion wave against a super minion wave. They need to be smart though, because this UCI has pretty much all game long played around just side laning and trying to punish side lanes, because they've not been able to really get control of the rest of the map. So this is mainly one of the few opportunities for them to really find avenues. I think they saw Rosthorn.
Yeah, but Strumpist is here on the collapse. They saw Rosethorn, but they didn't see Strumpist. X-Royal at risk of getting blown
but it doesn't matter.
Redemption makes the difference, keeps them strong, and lets them take them both down. Kita's unstoppable. And Pookie Bear 5 versus 3. This could be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, so I guess it actually didn't really matter that they didn't that Strumpist was there. They had the redemption there, like you were mentioning, for the extra healing, and 5 members strong with super minions. This looks like a potential game ender here. It's only Gory can Shout Any really to make it work.
Yep, Cerulean going to need to lock down Kita for sure, but only has so many opportunities to do so. And then TP and Shay are just too tanky. Kita ripping through Xiao Danny's health bar, and Pookie Bear 30-15, a much stronger game number 2, are going to walk away with a 2-0 win and a ticket to ACL playoffs.
Yeah, fully deserved. First game, there were a couple of doubts here and there on the way that they started it out, but they closed it out perfectly well. But this game, it was so well played all around. Early initiations in the bot lane, putting Kita ahead. Even though Roadstone got ahead, they found way more opportunities to make their team be more valuable. Sean in the mid lane was essentially in touch for the whole duration of the game. And as a Victor, you want that sort of game. You barely have to interact with anyone, you get your upgrades, and then you're able to teamfight however you want. And then huge props to X-Royal, playing a much more supportive role compared to the previous game, but did such a good job at keeping alive so many members, doing so many things right so that the carries can actually carry the game out. And this is a really good showing of team cohesion in a team that we didn't even know who was going to start today in some of the positions.
Yeah, I mean NCT, maybe the new starter in jungle. We'll talk with them in the interview, assuming we can get somebody, and see what they can tell us. But really good, really good showing here from Pookie Bears, able to take down former ACL champions UCI Esports and able to cap off what has been a really strong regular season for them by qualifying in week 5.
Yeah, able to get in. Now they will be trying to define their seeding a little bit more, but so far showing a really good strength as a team that I feel like probably not a lot of teams want to try and go against them. But having that sort of peace of mind to know that you're already in the playoffs, probably going to be quite good for them to finish testing things out.
Yeah, really good stuff here. So excited to see this team in playoffs as a high seed as well. So going to be favored to be able to make a pretty deep run here. Really happy with what they've been able to accomplish here. A squad that's not a lot of names that we consistently see in and out of ACL. So being able to make that qualification happen. Really good series from Sean tonight. Very impressed as a player that we haven't gotten to see too much of. Really nice series from him and a huge series from Che. I mean, I can't say enough good things about Che. Showing why he was such a hype prospect maybe, 2 or so years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Was one of the few that I wasn't 100% sure what to expect here, but I think both games playing pretty comfortably. He didn't have to excel to really make his presence known in the game. Maybe a few positioning mistakes here and there, but in general, doing a really good job at just being impactful enough that it was going to matter for the team. And then also being a secondary carry to Kita, which looked to be the primary carry of this team, but doing a good enough job that you're able to be a secondary carry. And in case something happens to Kita, you're always there as a backup to be able to execute yourself. So really good play there by Sean, and interested in seeing how he's going to keep on performing with some of the other champions.
Yeah, I mean, the mid lane competition is only going to get tougher as you start to get up into the playoffs. So going to also have surely a tough matchup. We don't know who it's going to be yet, but surely going to be a tough matchup next week in the seeding match for playoffs, where 4-on-1 teams will play off against each other, find out who gets the superior seeds there. Definitely going to take a look at how the rest of our series around the league are going as we buy time to find out what the interview is going to look like. DIT Esports, of course, playing earlier tonight, took a 2-0 win over Weber State. They have also qualified playoffs. So congrats over to the streamer team there. Apex and Flippers currently at 1-1. Prosperity and Galaxy just getting started. Still live, actually, over on the Salt Mine channel. We may send you guys over there. We may send you guys over to... Yeah, AVL is done. So we will likely send you guys over to the Salt Mine after we finish up here. Still waiting to see.
ACL priority.
All right. Looks like we got nobody for an interview here. Everybody bailed after their win. So sometimes it's like that. We'll remind them once it's playoff times. I do not think this is the last we will see of the Pookie Bears on this stream. Really good showing from them tonight. And we got a whole another series in store for you guys. Let's send you over to the Salt Mine once we're done here, where Prosperity and Galaxy are currently 0-0. They just started in another match that will qualify another team to the ACL playoffs. Once again, shout out to Zen Market. That is code Aegis to get 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. Appreciate them supporting the league. Appreciate everybody at home for staying tuned in today. From myself, from TDS, and from Caddy on production. Have yourselves a great night. We'll be back next week, and we'll see you next time.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
Zen Market.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。